All right, we are back with another episode, but this one's a little bit different.
This is. We're doing a little quicker of an update, so we don't try to overwhelm anyone with too much information.
Yeah, I guess. So basically, Dunseith debacle been going on. We've sat down with Charles Hofer, really detailed,
deep dive.
What has gone on in Dunseith. A lot of evidence that we've been able to show, whether that is live on screen or whether that was on our website. So if you're interested in seeing all that, you can go to mydakota.com and click Dunseith debacle, and all those articles and podcasts are categorized right there for you, so you can go through them if you're interested in getting more of the backstory. But we were given an update on some things that are happening in Dunseith, and this is kind of a big deal. The big story in Dunseith is about this warehouse that when Charles Hofer got into it, there was a bunch of crimes that apparent crimes that had been committed in the building.
Yeah. With a plethora of leftover evidence and documents, whether it be different kinds of parts or paper documents, there was a plethora of on-site evidence that had been left over from the whole preceding events.
One of the interesting things about it is it felt like whenever anybody got near it, things went haywire, whether that was investigators or whether that was even some of the media in North Dakota. They would learn about it and they basically wouldn't pursue, or if they did, they wouldn't pursue very far. And that became a frustration for Charles Hofer, as he was just trying to get the factory or the warehouse, the building ready where he could produce RVs at a mass level.
Yeah, he was trying to get the warehouse turned into the factory so he could start producing his state-of-the-line RVs. We have seen some great mock-ups of them. We've been up to the facility. It is state-of-the-art kind of stuff. I don't understand it fully, but it's wild.
And it's stuff that he has produced in Africa as well.
Yes.
Already.
Yeah, he has fully working models in Africa.
So very, very incredible, the storyline. Well, one of the things that happened was Hofer had been working with the Department of Commerce, and that is they had invited him to North Dakota. They wanted him to buy this facility. He went and did that, and there was funding that they provided in the forms of loans. Yep. And as things progressed, obviously Hofer had to take care of some of the investigation into what was going on there, and there was legal battles, different things that happened there, and money was put into that so that way he could get the facility clean from those things. And so then we haven't been able to get the full documentation from the state of North Dakota, but it feels randomly state of North Dakota goes and freezes his funds. It felt like to that point they had been pretty behind Hofer, saying, yeah, go ahead, it's fine, we get it, it's fine if you use the money for that stuff. And then suddenly they froze his funds for misuse. And so
and without ever really providing a strong depth of what the misuse was. They always had made it, they'd always alleged that he was doing something wrong with the funds, but they never actually specified really what was being done with them wrong.
So this led into huge back and forth, and Hofer began to look at other funding sources.
Where they actually unfroze and then refroze his loans.
Yeah, it was a back and forth.
About a year and a half.
But Hofer began to look at other funding sources, trying to create a new path, and because of how the relationship with the state of North Dakota was going and what they were saying, it was creating very difficult problems in him being able to secure the funding. Basically, people were ready to invest in the project, but this had to be cleared up with the state of North Dakota, and the state of North Dakota would only give bad things. Yeah,
because the state-backed Commerce Department is freezing your loans. A lot of outside investment sources aren't going to go through with that until that gets lifted.
And all those state of North Dakota had to do, from our understanding, is unfreeze the loans. Hofer could have got the new financing, and the state of North Dakota could have been out. Yeah, they could have been paid off, and they could have been out from it all.
Would have been moved on and done with that.
That did not happen. And so Hofer recently sent a letter, basically letter of intent is what I'm calling it. There's probably not the legal term for it. but basically a notice of intended federal litigation by Hofer Group and Charles Hofer. And this is going not at the state of North Dakota, but at some of the key players that have been involved in the process that worked for the state of North Dakota. So it's against them personally.
Yep. He's alleging civil rights violations under federal law, including economic retaliation and abuse of power against these individuals for holding the positions that they do. And because they work for state departments, and that is obviously run by the state of North Dakota, they're subject to different thought processes than a lot of us. And they have a level of power that ordinary people don't have when they're able to approve and disapprove loans, and then also form media narratives as well with their opinions and how they're able to push a narrative out. So when you look at what he's alleging here, these are some very hefty things because what's that dollar figure that he's wanting to get out of this?
$1.39 billion,
which is an incredible amount. That would be one of the highest lawsuit totals in the state of North Dakota's history.
Right. And again, it's not at the state of North Dakota. Mm-hmm. It's just within the state of North Dakota that has happened inside the state.
It is against individuals, rather than any specific department or anything like that. And it sounds like they have until March 7th, which is this Friday, to respond with some kind of settlement or an update. And otherwise, come next week, March roughly 10th through 14th, it sounds like there's going to be litigation filed on Mr. Hofer and his legal team's end.
Right. We don't know exactly when it will happen, but yeah, it will follow up from this March 7th deadline that has been given. We did reach out to Mr. Hofer, and at this point, there's no apparent response from the state of North Dakota directly to it. So we'll see from the state of North Dakota or from the individuals named in the lawsuit. The reason why we keep saying the state of North Dakota is they do work for the state of North Dakota directly, and there's an indemnity clause that does allow the state to go and support the employees, even though they're being sued personally because of their connection to the state. That can happen, or the state can say, no, we're not going to do that. So the state does have an option to play ball in it if they want to.
And the individuals could also pursue to get their own independent legal teams as well.
Absolutely. So it's not directly at the state, but the state has a chance to be involved in it. It just depends on what plays out, and I have no idea how that will play out, and it's not worth commenting on.
And so if you do want to see this letter in full, we will be posting it along with a short article on mydakotan.com on the website sometime this afternoon, early evening of Wednesday, March 5th. So make sure you check that out. We're going to have the full letter, which is, I believe, 4 or 5 pages, along with two different appendixes that include, on Appendix A, it has a list of people that could be potentially associated or at least had potential conversations associated with the topic in Dunseith. It lists a number of different conversation topics, names, keywords that could be potentially associated along with those people, and to try to get that information secured rather than any possibility of it being lost in translation.
And so, interestingly enough, on a separate note, there's a new, and the state of North Dakota has been struggling as far as on the media side to actually cover this.
Yep.
Whether for good, bad, or worse.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter how they cover it.
I would love, I think we've been saying along the line, we would love to see some other coverage come from this.
Right. And so an interesting new player is maybe dipping their toe into it. They're very unclear. They want it to seem like it with Beck TV's new series that they're releasing today, Dunseith Unclassified. And what an interesting thing is based off the comments made by Lori Hins, who will be heading up that series, is they're starting out with a murder that actually happened in Minot by Agent Breho, who has a connection to Dunseith, has a connection to what's going on there. That murder potentially could have an effect on, could have happened because of what was happening in Dunseith. We have known that the whole time, but it is something that's difficult to get anybody to talk about. And And so there was a third person that was there when it happened. And she had reached out, or I believe we had been in contact with her. We had been in contact with her. We almost did a podcast with her, but it did not work out. But it sounds like she's going to actually be on video with Beck TV, talking about some of the things that went down in that at that murder scene,
yes,
perhaps, and surrounding evidence. It'll be interesting to see how that plays out, because there is an ongoing trial with that. So it's kind of a risky move for her.
Undoubtedly. And especially last summer with how some of the charges towards Agent Brejo were changed around a little bit.
Right.
It was a lot of the lesser charges seemed to be kind of taken away, but he got stuck with one really big one. So it's an interesting kind of thing where they're going with it. I don't know how it's going to play out,
right,
but that is something that should be, I believe, proceeding this summer at some point, but I could be wrong.
But, you know, lawyers are good at getting things delayed.
Without a doubt. So
we'll see how that plays out. Yeah, going to be an interesting deal. And it's interesting. So when Lori Hines was talking about it, she was on Ladies of Another View, and she was talking about it. And she was asked if this had to do with the place where there's a building in Dunseith and there's the classified documents and there's all this stuff. And she kind of ignored the questions and kind of like, oh, we'll find out, which is an interesting thing, because that's a very sensitive topic, apparently, around Beck.
Mm-hmm. Because also, if you have any depth of knowledge of the story, I don't know how you could say that there's not at least a loose connection there. I mean,
well, it's definitely making it felt like by saying Dunseith Unclassified, you're trying to play to the
there's
story
still
that's going
some
on.
hidden information.
And the reason why it is, and that's great. I mean, it's a good title. It sounds engaging, and it's all that. So that's great from the marketing side. But the part that was interesting was that last fall there was some reporting that was done by the Gateway Pundit, where Beck TV did a maybe not Beck, but Lori Hines, different players with Beck, and were very intentional about what they said about Gateway. I think it was Lori Hines that likened Gateway to a Flat Earth Society group, because Gateway broke a story with recordings of Hofer and Lori and Derek Buwala, all on a call talking about what had been going on. And in those recordings, they said, yeah, this is a big deal. And then there's
go to the highest of the high kind of points. And
then there was a article that was done October 29th, 2024. North Dakota media outlet caught suppressing news. Audio clips show attempt to broker extortion deal with U.S. Senator. That's what the title was by the Gateway Pundit. And there, the Gateway Pundit had a recording where it made it sound like potentially it's a little bit
murky,
but it sounds like there was potential where Beck TV was trying to be the broker for a deal where name the price and we can go and talk with the senators and see if that would happen.
Or if we can get the senator to make sure that all of your money gets to you from the state at this point, and all of everything gets magically fixed kind of deal. And
it was mentioned in that recording that this is something that Derek Buwala with Beck had done a couple times before.
And at this point as well, Mr. Hofer had...
And excuse me, I believe I got the title of the article wrong. It was on November 3rd. There's a series of them. So November 3rd, North Dakota political elites deny TGP reporting on emergent aviation scandal, extortion scheme with Senator Kramer. These records prove they're lying was the title of the article. And in that one, there was a recording where Buwala was quoted as saying, "I've done this dance twice before. The outcome sucks because the bad guys get away. But in both cases, I needed to achieve the goals that were important to Beck and to me, and they were achieved, and the bad guys got away. The bad guys are going to get away. You just have to decide if you're going to get destroyed in the process of the bad guys getting away." So definitely interesting things coming out throughout the state. Sounds like it's going to be a busy week with the Dunseith Declassified being released, and then
sounds like it'll be a series that'll be coming out, I believe, weekly. So
yeah,
little segments coming out every week, and make sure everyone can follow along that way.
I mean, there's a lot there. So
This is a massive story.
Doing 15 minutes, it's going to take a long time before we get a lot of the good stuff.
I mean, yeah, we've got 5+ hours of podcasts out here already.
Right, and that's just showing evidence.
Exactly.
So I mean, there it's a huge story that's going to take a long time to get a lot of the substance.
Yep, because there are so many tentacles to this thing. There's the aspect of when Hofer first got brought in and why he was brought in. Then there was the aspect of everything he found and why it wasn't cleaned up and why the process into getting it cleaned up was made as difficult as it was. And then from that, you go on to, first, the stuff that was found there and what the implications it could possibly have on a larger national scale. And then you go from that and you start looking at the relationship between him and the players in the Commerce Department and why that situation just kept getting worse and worse, and no one wanted to really get a deal done at the table.
What's interesting, though, is the way that it sounds like, I mean, Dunseith was almost secondary. They were talking even about some of the police investigations that had gone on in the Minot Police Department.
Yeah, that was weird. I don't know why we have looked into this stuff pretty heavily, and we've looked into some files that we haven't even talked about, and I don't think there's any kind of a relation between the issues with the Minot Police Department and Dunseith.
Right.
I mean, prove me wrong. Please do so. I would love to see that. But I would.
You're making a challenge. You're gonna fire it up, man.
I guess. Please, no. But for real, if there's any legitimate connection between the Minot Police Department and Dunseith, I'd love to see that.
But even I think even maybe even a potential connection. I don't know that there is a potential connection between the police department and Brejo. Maybe may have been more where they were going.
And that's possible.
That's more likely, I think. But I don't know that it actually all trails all the way up to Dunseith.
That's fair. And where those connections could be, would it actually be involved with Dunseith, or is it more just because of personal connections with him having been entrenched here for so long, knowing people, having a military background, and a lot of, obviously, police officers have military backgrounds as well. It's just you're involved in a lot of things, especially when you're on the investigative side of that as well.
So we're excited to see other news organizations finally I don't know if the word is brave or what it is, but be willing. That's probably the better word. Yep. Be willing to step into the circle and talk about Dunseith.
Yeah, undoubtedly. I look forward to their coverage. I can imagine I think that it's going to be an interesting thing to follow along.
Absolutely. Absolutely. We will continue to provide updates as meaningful updates come in because we want to do our audience right by that. Be paying attention to March 7th, and then next week we'll if the litigation moves forward, then we'll have that update for you probably on our Indie Talk. So
which make sure next week's Indie Talk is looking like it's going to be shaping up interestingly.
We could have a very fun one, which if we have an update, we'll start it with that quickly and then jump into our fun part, which we'll be announcing here very soon.
Yes.
So
make sure to come check out our live tomorrow morning on Thursday with our flip-flop of the week. We're bringing Leif Snyder in to talk about Minot City Council from this week.
Yes.
So make sure you check us out tomorrow on Thursday morning, and we'll be making sure that we get everything wrapped up here in town.
Thanks for watching this episode here at the Dakota, and be sure to like and subscribe and stay tuned for some more updates that we'll have coming your way.